Hi, this is Paul Palmer, and
This is Natasha Todorovic-Cowan. Paul, why is that target running away? And why is that poor person so upset?
well, it's it signifies somebody that's trying to get somebody in to help, and they don't necessarily know what they want, and they miss. They get somebody else that maybe could have done the job, but they didn't see them, or they missed them, or they aimed for them and couldn't afford them, or for whatever reason they didn't get the right person in to come in and do the work that they needed.
Well, if I was a target, I wouldn't want darts in me either. So I'd be moving too.
Yeah, I think I would.
Yeah.
Have you heard the game Chicken?
Yeah.
Where you go, each time somebody throws a dart between you, you have to put your foot where the dart was.
Yeah. No, thank you.
And there's two ways to win. Either you refuse to stand there and jump away. I know the other person wins if you jump away, or you win if the dart goes into your trousers.
Thank you. Um, so if as a service provider, I have had clients where it seemed like the target was always moving.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's just because you didn't get good clarity or good analysis up at the front and get consent on what it is that you were doing. But I think the other way that the target seems to move is that organizations believe they know what the right outcome is, and then they go and hire a service provider that isn't going to deliver what they believe should be delivered.
Mm.
And I think 87% of the time, the stats show is that organizations say their service providers don't understand what it is they wanted.
You also get a lot of scope creep. So in pharmaceuticals, you often find that the people hiring or researching don't have sufficient technical knowledge of the maybe the platform or the equipment or the product that they want to buy in, or the service even. And when they start to learn a bit, well, they change the rules, they change the goals, they change what they want as the outcome. So I did that about 2 years ago with an EQMS. I think it's about long. And the sales discussion, it wasn't termed as a sales discussion. It was something else, but really it was a sales discussion, and basically saying, can you do this? Yes. Can you do this? Yes. Can you do this? Yes. And then they came on site, and it was, can you do this? Like we said in the sale, in the where we agreed, and they said, oh, that's going to require some extra development work. And I thought, but I asked you up front if it could do that, and it can't.
And they didn't know.
And because I wasn't involved in agreeing the contract,
No.
um, they didn't specify these certain aspects that I wanted out of the service were going to work.
Yeah.
Instead, they cut back the costs.
Well, that's why I always say to my clients, I know that you've done some work around this, and we have to do an analysis of what's happening because there's always stuff under the surface that you're not seeing. And very often, employees and people will speak more about what's going on in the organization to a consultant like me than they will to people within the organization because you're seen as a neutral party. And particularly if they feel secure and they trust that you will keep that you'll keep a confidentiality, which I'll always do. And then once you've got those pieces, then it's a lot easier to say, all right, we've done the analysis, we've done this piece, now let's look at what's really involved, because sometimes it just takes a little bit of getting to know one another and understanding the problem a little bit more deeply. And you've got to have room for that as well.
It just reminded me of some of the experiences I've had in taking things on board. And you mentioned about the employees not speaking up. I remember being in one company, it was quite a while ago, and everybody used to say, oh, I'm not speaking up because I don't want to get my head shot off. Because the people that spoke up and disagreed with the leader, the head of, not really a leader, was removed from the organization. If you were
Yeah.
not a yes person, you were not going to be there anymore.
Yeah. And that's an example of really that fixed sort of mindset that we were talking about in our last video,
Mm.
or the video before that.
Recently.
One of them.
Coming back to the topic here, though, we were talking about when you're identifying your contractor, when you're trying to work out who you should be working with, and then you get scope creep because although you've identified somebody, you then change your mind because you understand better when you're on the inside. How do you avoid that?
Well, I've actually got a bit of a drawing for you. And it's really understanding who it is that you are hiring. Because if you are hiring a coach to make a leader better, then you've got a coach working with what's inside the leader and, kind of what's internal to them, their head, their heart, their mind, where they're trying to grow. But if the leader has a relationship with other people, most coaches are not coaching for that relationship. So what people do is they will hire a trainer, and then the trainer teaches them to do something. Well, the doing of it doesn't incorporate the context of that organization and whether or not those skills will transfer to the day to day for those folks. And particularly if it's a trainer that just does content and isn't a facilitated trainer who makes sure that they are able to incorporate it in their work. And then there are, the various consultants who know, the particular task, but maybe they don't know, what the system is. So you need all for a target to be attained, you need to know, are you needing a coach in this? Are you needing a trainer? What kind of a consultant or group of consultants do you need to make sure that that outcome and that target are met? And sometimes organizations throw a lot of money on the wrong service provider, expecting the solution, and they don't get it.
Mm. That's quite interesting because when I provide my services, I can flip between all three.
Very few, some people say they can, and very few people actually do.
Yeah.
The skills base, the understanding of the work is a little different from understanding the human system. And that's where I specialize. And that's why we make a good team.
Yeah. I quite like the so defining, going in as a consultant and saying what they need,
Yeah.
delivering the training, and then working with maybe the senior managers to coach them how to move it forward.
Yeah.
But it does, what I find the hardest doing that is pricing it,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't know how much training you're going to do. So you go in as a consultant and they say, oh, well, can you do that for me? And you think,
Yeah.
well, yes, I can, but it's not the same as what I'm already being paid for. It's different and it's at a higher price. And how do you broach that when you've already agreed the price for the whole contract?
Well, yeah. So, you're letting your client know that this is the piece we are tackling right now for this engagement.
Yeah.
And should we find other things, and typically we do, if we're a good fit and you're loving me and my work and you're loving my team and you love what we do together, then we will probably be doing more work and we'll let you know what we find along the way. And that's not scope creep. That's just taking the one piece at a time. You
Yeah.
can't build a building and just drop it down. You've got to do the foundation, you've got to do the walls, you've got to do, the things that hold things in place. And that's what we're doing as we work together with organizations.
Sounds interesting, but I think it's a topic for next time, Natasha.
It looks like it is, Paul. We could talk all day.
I'll talk to you again soon, Natasha. That's Paul Palmer and
Natasha Todorovic Cowan signing out. That was good chat, Paul.
I'll talk to you again soon, Natasha.